Welcome back, everybody. It's maybe more of a welcome back to myself, but apologies for the outrageously long hiatus. I have moved over to Dubai in the last couple of months for a new job, and it's taken me a long time to kind of get back into the routine and the swing of things. And I thought, what better catalyst to get back into making boxing videos than the devastating but outstanding Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz fight. So there's a lot to talk about in the post-fight here, and I've waited for a couple of days in the aftermath to kind of, I guess, contextualize what exactly happened and kind of gauging what people's, and when I say people's, I mean the casuals' reactions were. I think in the most part, the minority, the vocal minority is kind of being seen immediately as, oh my God, he was robotic, he's been exposed, he was always a hype job. And a lot of that has a lot of validity, but I think if we dissect it a bit more, there's more to this than just meets the eye. First and foremost, it was an excellent fight, which for me is the most important thing for boxing. Followed closely by the fact that I'm not an Anthony Joshua fan, so to speak, but I am a huge fan of a few things. One, how much he's accomplished in, I think he's now on his 23rd fight. I don't know any other heavyweight boxer in history who has done as much with such an impressive resume in the last maybe 15 years that what Anthony Joshua has put together. Now, the casuals maybe don't understand how solid somebody like Povetkin is. Takam, maybe not so much, but Parker, I think what he did to Parker in the Parker fight spoke volumes about how well he can actually box, how reluctant he made Parker to engage. And I'm sure Parker's probably kicking himself in hindsight. Now he's seen what Andy Ruiz was able to accomplish just by applying pressure and being brave. But his legacy after 23 fights and what he brought to the sport that I absolutely love. I don't think casuals can appreciate just how huge and what an enormous impact Joshua has made on boxing worldwide. I don't even think this is exaggerated by saying he might be responsible for increasing wages of almost all boxers by 20-30%, because he's raised the profile of boxing enormously in the UK. That's kind of spilled over, I think, into the US, and the US market is now kind of fighting back and getting bigger. And I'm not saying that Andy Joshua is the sole cause of this, but I think he was an enormous part of this this change, an enormous part of it. And anyway, so I'm not really a fan of Joshua or his style or anything like that. I'm certainly not what I would consider a Joshua fanboy, but I'm a huge boxing fanboy, and a Joshua for me was good for the sport. I think initially that his loss is probably not great for the sport, but I think a little bit longer midterm, I think it will be great. Because what now? Now, before we get into maybe the what now, let's actually talk about the fight itself. Because for anyone that's been watching boxing for a long time, you occasionally develop an attachment to boxers. You know, how fanboys develop. I've never had that for Joshua, but I've always had a nervousness whenever he's fought. And I think anyone that's watching a boxer that has nervousness is usually because you've seen something in a previous fight that is worrisome. So my attachment to Joshua wasn't from a fanboy perspective, but more I wanted him to do well for the sake of boxing, I suppose. But whenever he fought, like I said, I had a nervousness and an apprehension. When he fought Povetkin on the first couple of rounds, like, holy shit, he's going to lose. When he was fighting Ruiz, when he went for the kill after he knocked him down, I was like saying to my TV, please just don't hold back. He's not hurt. And when he lost, I was gutted. But again, not for the boxer, but for the sport. And the fight itself, I didn't make a pre-fight video, but if I'm being honest, I thought Joshua was going to steamroll this. Mostly on the fact that if you look at Ruiz's previous fights, he's done much better against people who were of a similar height to him. If you watch him in the Parker fight, he really struggled to find, not he didn't struggle, but he found it challenging to find range with Parker. Parker obviously is very elusive, but for me, I felt like there was just a slight height dynamic, and I thought that would be kind of accentuated even further with Joshua. I just thought his arms would be too short. All Joshua really had to do was kind of lean back to the sides and the diagonals, maybe take a step left, right. I thought he could counter him coming in all day, and to me, it felt like it was Joshua's. I couldn't imagine a scenario really where Joshua lost, other than one of those weird moments where he seems to just run out of gas completely, and he becomes bow-legged, and he's like a newborn foal or something. Much like we saw Klitschko back against Lamont Brewster, for anyone who's remembers that fight. And he's not the first boxer to be gassing to the point of exhaustion. But in previous fights, he's been fighting fighters with a similar volume to himself. So in the Klitschko fight, when he was gassed, Klitschko himself has stamina vulnerabilities, so was reluctant to kind of press the gas completely. And he tried to close the show, but not with as much conviction as I think he needed. And Klitschko himself, I guess, was aware of his own vulnerability, so always maybe had a reluctance behind him. Ruiz didn't seem to give a fuck about his vulnerabilities. How quickly he got up after that kind of jumping left hook from Joe, and that was a rocket of a shot, man. I would bet that 99% of heavyweights in boxing would be KO'd with a shot like that, because it put him down, like right out. It took him off his feet, but he was back up, and it was like he had never been dented. And I don't know how Joshua misread that situation so badly, but he went storming in, and he caught him again with a great shot. I think got caught himself, and it was game over from that point. He was never really in the fight from that point on. And in fairness, even before that, I guess you guys were seeing what I was seeing, but during the announcements, Joshua looked like, the only way I could describe it is if somebody in the family had died, and he had that etched look of deep concern on his face, but trying to kind of put on a brave face almost. He didn't look right to me at all. He didn't look... he looked ill. I don't know. And I said to my partner, I said, listen, I don't know what's wrong with him. And she's like, yeah, he looks... And she's not a boxing fan, but she's like, yeah, he looks really weird. And he fought like he was in a really weird mental state. I don't know if it was nervosity or... I mean, he's been in bigger stages than this. I think, fighting Klitschko surely was a bigger event, a bigger stage than this. It's not like he was being booed and heckled by the crowd. I'm not sure what it was, but he fought very robotically. More so than I've seen him in his most recent fights. I thought the way he kind of loosened up and limbered up against Povetkin, I thought that was incredible, and I thought it showed real promise. And it felt like he was trying to find that against Ruiz. He was lowering his hands, left hand, kind of, relaxing, and it's like he was trying to force himself to relax because he was obviously very aware that he was being robotic. And he was so tired. Those little kind of like cuffing hooks were just knocking him over. It was kind of almost reminiscent to Amir Khan. I don't know. And his power of recovery, I said in previous fights when he's gassed out, he's been allowed to recover. And he's recovered within 1 or 2 rounds. Here he just couldn't seem to gather himself. He just couldn't seem to get over it. And the thing that Ruiz let him off the hook for 2, 3 rounds. I think it was 2 rounds he let him off the hook. And I think Ruiz himself was, as it turned out, he was very, very smart. I think maybe he knew that Joshua was vulnerable. Whenever Joshua unloaded, he became vulnerable again. So I think Ruiz was just being patient, making sure that he wasn't going to get caught by something that could knock him out. And I don't know why Joshua didn't recover, right? He didn't kind of get his second or third wind, but he never seemed to. And for me, the writing was on the wall in kind of round 5 and 6. And even then in round 7, he was catching Ruiz with some really heavy shots, man. And Ruiz is just, I don't know, he's just a battle tank, an absolute battle tank. And to be fair, I think if you watch some of Ruiz's other fights, even out with the Parker fight, you're going to hear this a lot, but he is enormously underrated. I don't know why people thought he was so terrible. Very, very fast hands, but more than just fast hands, he boxes with a really high IQ. He's not like he's defending with his face. And don't get me wrong, he took some shots, and he took a lot of leather, but he still boxed with intelligence. Joshua was throwing without thought. Ruiz was throwing with thought and intention, with a plan almost. And I was very, very impressed. And I think if Ruiz was maybe 2 or 3 inches taller, His arms are a bit longer. I appreciate he wouldn't be the same inside fighter that he is now, but I do think his reach is going to hold him back. I think Joshua should really have been pumping his jab with some conviction and making sure that Ruiz eats that whenever he wants to come in. He should have been bloodying up his face. I think Wilder would punish Ruiz with a really underrated jab that Wilder throws out. I think Fury would dance circles around Ruiz and probably stop him late. Do you know what I think that Ruiz might struggle with this? I think Ruiz might triumph over is Dillian Whyte. I think Dillian Whyte has a fantastic left hook. To be fair, that's what caught Ruiz. But I think Ruiz has enough intelligence to kind of be able to apply enough pressure. And Whyte is, again, his chin isn't great. I say isn't great, it is great, but it's not infallible. And he tires. I think people are as Dwyer would say, knockouts give amnesia. I think he was losing the fight both fights, but especially fight 2 against Chisora. He was behind on the cards. He was losing to Chisora. It's not like he was putting on a masterclass. He was low volume. He wasn't impressive. I think Ruiz would put some serious hurt on Dillian Whyte. I think it would be a good fight. I think that would be Ruiz's best next step. But I think Wilder and Fury, not because they're any better than Joshua. What the hell? But I think that Joshua would do far better against Wilder than he did against Ruiz, because it would be fought at a much slower pace. Now Wilder is cat quick. He's very, very quick, but it's one punch. Ruiz is. I think it was Ruiz's barrage and variety that really kind of confused AJ and really had him on edge. I think AJ would be far happier to sit behind the jab in that than he was against Ruiz. So I think, a lot of the, oh my God, this is what would have happened if he'd fought whoever. I think styles make fights, and it's very important to remember that. I'm not sure Joshua can beat Ruiz, actually. I'm the only thing he can do differently is if he just sticks behind his jab and punishes him whenever he comes in. Don't chase Ruiz, let Ruiz come to you, and don't move unnecessarily. Ruiz applied some very intelligent pressure without ever throwing his hands, just with his feet. And people were saying he has really slow feet, and that's his biggest problem, but his feet were fine to me. He was stepping outside the jab as well and coming inside, boxing, as I said, intelligently, and I think he drained a lot of Joshua's stamina without even throwing a punch. And that's something Joshua needs to learn, to root his feet and move his body more. I know he's not seen as being a mobile or an elusive fighter, but I think he'd be much better suited pinning his feet to the ground and learning to bend at the waist a little bit and coming back and really pumping that jab. And that may be what they discussed. It's maybe what they had planned. But the whole fight stank of nervosity for me. I was very surprised. AJ's normally very cool and calm and collected. I wonder if something happened before the fight that put him on edge, because he seemed very laid back in the lead up as well. And when he was walking out, he looked terrified. It wasn't even that he looked terrified. He just looked so vacant. Like he'd rather be... He couldn't care less. He could care less where he was. And, I mean, his reactions to being knocked down were so lackluster. Like, so, yeah, caught me. Okay, I'm in this situation. It's okay. Like, he was just accepting everything. It's like he knew this was going to happen. It's like he was almost like he'd accepted fate that he was going to lose, and he was just going through the motions. That's maybe the best way I can describe it. Very, very strange fight. Surreal almost, actually, if you watch it back without commentary especially. Just watch Joshua's body language, watch his facial expressions. Very, very strange. For any psychologists or people that can read body language, I'd be very interested to see what your thoughts of the fight were. Even before he got knocked down. Very, very strange fight. But interesting to watch, and difficult to watch, actually. And I think it's one of these fights that I won't be revisiting too much, because again, I just think Joshua was fantastic for the sport, and for him losing, for me, it's like boxing losing. But in the same sentence, please don't take that as disrespect to Ruiz. It couldn't happen to a nicer guy. He's an embodiment of I think of all of us. We just want to be happy, eat what we want, do what we want to do, and make other people happy. It's a fantastic. It couldn't have transferred to a more likable person. Both lovely guys. And again, I think this is underrated, but Joshua was so magnanimous in defeat. Humble. No, not once did he say, this happened, or this happened, or that classic, no excuses but. He took it, And it was it. Game over. I really hope he can find a way to get past this. I think it's psychological, if I'm honest. I don't think it's physical. If it is, I think he has something medically wrong with him to be so crippled, taking a little shot like that. And I've never been punched in the face like that, so I can't say. But looking back at all the thousands of fights that I've seen, it's so strange to see a boxer react like that. So strange. And it doesn't look like it's... it just looks like he's physically exhausted. You know, like being hit in the head suddenly depletes his tank. As opposed to, it's not like it scrambles his marbles. I don't think he's lost his equilibrium. I mean, he has, but not because of his brain, but because he's run out of gas. It's very, very strange. I hope it's something he can overcome, but I think he's going about it the wrong way. He's looking at all the science behind it. I think it's purely psychological. I know he employed a sports psychologist, but I don't know. You know, it's strange, but I've always wondered why boxers don't put on headphones. I know they're meant to be listening to their coach, but you know how when you're running and you feel absolutely annihilated, and then a song comes on and suddenly you feel invigorated and it changes everything. I wonder if that would work for somebody like Joshua. Anyway, rambling. I hope you're all doing really well. There's a lot of interesting fights coming up that I'll be covering, the larger ones and the small ones. Anyway, we'll call it there. Again, I hope you're all doing really well, and I'll see you soon.